As most web applications interact with the user, validating their input is a pretty common task for websites and web applications. Now, to be able to really fulfill this task in a good way, Laravel provides us some good tools that we can use to make user input validation really easy. Let's have a look at them. So here we are in our little web application, and at the moment, if we try to greet no one, nothing happens. Or actually, something happens. We're getting sent back to this page, but we don't get an error or anything like this. Let's change this. Let's validate this form and give the user an appropriate error message. We'll start in our routes PHP file, because as of now we had all our routes here at the top, but to be able to use the Laravel validation service, we have to cut them from here and put them in this route group here at the bottom. Now, I will get back to middleware and grouping middlewares in a later video. As of now, I just want to tell you this grouping here basically provides us with additional services we don't have if we have our routes outside of this group. And these services are special front-end utilities, to put it this way. So whenever we are having some front-end related stuff going on, we want to put these routes inside this middleware or in this group here. The opposite would be, for example, a RESTful service, which is a pure back-end task where we have no front-end, then we wouldn't need this. So for our app, be sure to put your routes inside this route group here. So that's the first step. Now in our controller, we're going to write our actual validation logic. And this is real easy in Laravel. First of all, let's get rid of our custom rules here. We don't need them anymore. We can write this much leaner with Laravel. So we got one line as of now, and now we will add the Laravel validator, which is built in every controller as we extend from the controller here. We access it by just writing this and then a special method of a controller called validate. Now we pass this method two arguments. The first one is the request itself, this request variable we got over here. And the second one is an associative array where the key is the name of the field we want to validate. So for example, action. And the value are the rules. Now you can look up all built-in rules if you just Google for Laravel validation. And then here in their documentation, you find this point available validation rules. And down here you find all the possible values we can use as validation rules with short descriptions. So we want the action field to be required. And that's all we need for now, as it's a drop-down anyway. Though obviously you could send a post request from a terminal window or something like this, but we will leave this case out as for now. And we want to validate our name here, and this should also be required. We also want it to only contain normal characters, so no numbers or special characters. Therefore we add the alpha for alphabetic rule here. Now that's all we need here. Now we need to add a way of outputting these errors. We do this in our home view here. And above the form, I'll add an if condition here. And I will check if the errors variable, which Laravel will automatically create for us and fill with all errors that result from a validation, if any. If it is greater than 0, so if there are errors, I will create a div. Inside this div, I will just create an unordered list. And inside this unordered loop, I'll have a for each loop. We haven't seen that as of now, but it's basically like you know it from PHP. And for each to close the section. And we will loop through all errors, but we can't do it by writing errors as error. as we might expect, because actually errors is an object and it has a method called all, which will then give us an array of all errors. So be sure to add this method here, and then we can just output an error by putting it into curly braces. Save this, reload our page, and now if we don't enter anything, we get this error. The name field is required. If we enter numbers, we get the name may only contain letters. And if we enter max, it works. So that's form validation. That's all it is to it. In later projects, we will see how we utilize it in different places, how we add effects to our form when we get an error, like a red border. But it's all very easy because in the end, we got our info that we got errors in our view sent from our controller, and then we can obviously render whatever we like by just checking for errors and then rendering conditional HTML code. See you in the next video. Bye.